Everybody, my name is Tony. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Elise. A little bit about what we do. Our mission is to automate the housing and healthcare industry and make them more affordable. So today we see that both of these industries are experiencing significant challenges on the operational and financial side. And we hope that by taking the latest technology, we can alleviate some of those. Some of the use cases we have in production today are leasing agents, virtual doormans in the residential buildings, as well as healthcare receptionists that work both over text, email, phone calls, and various modalities. To give you a bit of a sense of the scale we operate at, more than 3.5 million apartments in the US are using us, and on a typical day, we process more than 5 billion tokens. And at this scale, even a small degradation in performance obviously causes a lot of client issues. So I'm going to talk a bit about first why are evals challenging. I won't say this is a super new field. Evaluating generative models is only like 4 years old. Some of the big challenges with it are, first and foremost, just the nature of the outputs. You see that your output is a text, a voice clip, or an image. You change your model. OK, now you have a different sentence. Is this a better sentence, worse sentence? Is it the same? How do you go about evaluating that at scale? On top of that, actually, all of these models are non-deterministic. So you can have the exact same model, exact same prompt, exact same input, and get different results. The best use cases are probably the agent use cases. But when you get into that, you hit the multi-turn problem. And you want to be able to have kind of more of a holistic idea of how well you're doing. And I know a bunch of people already talked about that, but the pace of progress has been quite dramatic. Even this year, more than 15 models have been released by the leading closed source labs. So how do we tackle this at Elise? Obviously, it's a learning in progress. But today, what we do is we mostly split the burden between two teams, our applied research team and our product engineering team. And we have roughly 3 buckets of categories and steps as we evaluate new models. The first step is just the basic model specs. That's usually taken for us by the applied research team. Once we feel like this is a reasonable candidate of a model, we'll go through intelligence assessment. I think, obviously, there's all sorts of benchmarks out there. But what we found out is that unless you evaluate it on your specific tasks, you're not going to get a good sense of how good a certain model is. And finally, you want to do more end-to-end testing and holistic evaluation. The basics for us are cost and latency. You see cost is, the information is public. It's easy to get. I think the only 2 caveats are if you're hosting an open source model, obviously that computation gets a little bit more complex. And recently, the reasoning models have this varied cost component that you should experiment with. Latency is surprisingly more difficult. Almost nobody publishes their latencies. And this is particularly important for some of the use cases, such as we work a lot in the voice AI space. There, obviously, you want to have a very, very snappy latency. And usually, we think about use cases by looking at this 2x2 matrix internally. Cost almost always correlates with intelligence. Not 100%, but it's a good proxy. And again, like if you don't care about the latency, but you really want to get something right, like a coding agent, then you can use high cost, high latency. And conversely, if you're going to deploy something on the edge, or you have some sort of a freemium product in mind, the low cost latency bucket is pretty important. Once we do this initial selection, you can leverage whatever model you selected. Your usual levers are you can go fine-tune, prompt engineer, change the model, add some guardrails. All of these are quite good techniques. But if you don't have a solid evaluation harness, it's very easy to kind of start playing whack-a-mole. And we do three types of evals mostly. the first part is the things we integrate in our CI/CD pipeline. Then we do some human evals, and we do a bit of end-to-end testing. And I'm going to talk about each of those. As an engineer, ideally, you want to have your evals in the CI/CD pipeline. That's the dream because it prevents any kind of regression. It's automatic. It's safe. The big problem is you cannot do that unless you have an autograder. And not all tasks are suitable for that, but some tasks where if your output is just a label or you're tracking some API calls or functions, you can definitely have an automatic grading. You can definitely put that in the CI/CD pipeline. Another trick we found quite useful is you can actually look at the response, leverage a language model as a judge, and ask a simple binary question. Did you mention the ongoing promotion? Yes or no? And that works reasonably well. I think the only caveat is like you should stay away from the temptation to push too much complexity in these questions. If you go and just ask, hey, did you follow all the instructions? Yes or no? We've seen the performance degrades pretty quickly. With the CI/CD pipeline, obviously everybody hates the flaky tests aspects of the CI/CD pipeline. So as you're pushing the models and you're pushing the evals, you see that once you start approaching the boundary, it's very hard to get like that 100% success rate. So it's very good to start bucketing the evals in easy, medium, and hard use cases. We mostly only run the easy and medium in the CI/CD pipeline. The hard cases are more kind of to tell you, hey, is that model substantially better? In the easy cases, they don't necessarily need to be easy. Maybe there are things that are hard, but you want always to pass. For example, in our use cases, we really care about fair housing violations, making sure we respect the HIPAA standards. So these things will always run in the CI/CD pipeline. But as you get to that decision boundary, you see that it gets harder and harder to get the model every time to output the same result. And before you add anything to the CI/CD pipeline, a good rule of thumb we found is like you should run that test 100 times and make sure it is really stable. To do any of the evals, I'll say a couple things are super important from architectural point of view. Basically, you need to snapshot everything on your data side that the agent has access to. Without that, you just have no replay capability. So whether you're using pricing, database APIs, you need to have as complete snapshots as possible. And the other thing to keep in mind is different model providers have slightly different prompting techniques. Some of them work better with different data formats like JSONs versus Markdown. So you want to make sure you're aware of these so that you're actually doing an apples-to-apples comparison. But as we said, not everything can be done in an auto-graded way. And I think in these cases, we just resort to the human evals, especially as you try and go into different modalities. It's much harder to have automatic grading because if you want to get a sense of how high quality of a voice you're leveraging, how friendly the tone is, it gets much more subjective. In these use cases, we almost always actually involve the product managers of our teams. We think they're the closest to having the best taste about what the behavior should be. The downside, obviously, is it's extremely time-consuming. A typical eval that starts involving human can take anywhere from a few hours to sometimes multiple days. And another technique we found extremely useful is to do end-to-end evaluations. Basically, what we do is we create an AI agent that calls the production agent. We create a fake profile for the first AI agent. You're a patient, you want to book an appointment, you have some kind of urgent question. The two agents interact, and at the end, we try to evaluate anything that's actionable, like did you transfer the call? Did you book the appointment? Is the appointment for the time we expect it to be? Usually, we run these at least once a day, and they've been pretty successful for us to catch weird edge cases. Once you have your eval harness in a good place, you have your agents deployed, you want to make sure you have good tracking metrics. It's your typical product stuff. You want to look at your conversions, engagements, and then anytime you put a good anomaly detection, catch any underperformance, you want to dig in, go prompt, fine-tune, run your eval harness again, and keep iterating. The same goes with topic segmentation has been very useful. I think especially with AI agents, you make one improvement, and then you go one step deeper in the conversation, and all of a sudden the topics change. So it's very, very helpful for us to have this constant topic segmentation on a daily basis to get better understanding of any drift. Thinking a bit about the future of evals, I think evals are going to get even more important. We see that from the foundational labs, the push is to have longer time horizon tasks, which is great. Obviously, it increases the productivity. The problem you start having is, as the task starts to take 10, 15 minutes, it's not that you're just answering one question. You're starting to do 15, 20 actions, and you want to have very comprehensive understanding of how well each action was performed, were there actions that were performed that were not necessary, and be able to track all of that. In my opinion, for anybody that's operating on the application layer, evaluations are a huge bottleneck, but once you get them, it can definitely help you unlock far better performance. And my personal observation is that almost nobody's investing enough in evals today. I think whatever you're doing, I'll suggest go and double that time. It's going to pay off handsomely. With that in mind, I want to thank you, everybody.